Peace, love, liberty, radio.
And the walls come crashing down as the war at home reaches your town. You have no choice, it's safe and clean. We all submit to the war machine.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year. No, I'm not drunk. I know exactly what I'm talking about. Today is New Year's Day. Well, it's Chinese New Year's. So, like it actually is a New Year's Day. There are people celebrating the new year, and it's just as arbitrary as any other time of year, right? So, like, if New Year's Day were on the equinox, the vernal equinox coming up March 21st, that would be just as arbitrary as if it were at the autumnal equinox, or if it was at the summer solstice or the winter solstice or Groundhog Day. It's all really just arbitrary days, but I enjoy celebrating Chinese New Year, and I do so not because, I have any sort of reverence for the Chinese culture, but the reason I enjoy celebrating Chinese New Year is it's an extension of my birthday. And why would Chinese New Year be an extension of my birthday, you might be thinking to yourself? Well, I will tell you. And it's because I was actually born on Chinese New Year's Day. So February 7th, 1978 was a Chinese New Year. It was New Year's Day for China. And it was also the day I was born. So yesterday was my birthday. Today is my Chinese birthday / Chinese New Year. So I will be celebrating with the most delicious Chinese dish that they serve at the local Chinese buffet. And that would not be Chinese food at all. That would actually be crab legs. So I will go and eat a large amount of crab legs today to celebrate my birthday and also to celebrate Chinese New Year. Now, I do have an announcement about yesterday. Yesterday, again, it was Darryl's 38th birthday, and I did a campaign fundraiser to correspond with the birthday, and I wound up bringing in just under $200 in funds through Bitcoin and silver. I had someone pledge to send 2 ounces of silver, and they provided a tracking number for the package. So I, am going to believe that they have placed that in the mail, and I should be receiving that in a couple of days. And then I've also tossed a little bit of my own silver into the pot, so that winds up, a little over 200 was raised yesterday. Had a goal of raising $3,000, and I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, 200 is far from 3,000, and yes, it is. However, before the birthday fundraiser officially began, I had someone pledge and actually donate $1,000 worth of Bitcoin. So in total for the fundraiser, I wound up bringing in just over 40% of the goal, which, again, it's not exactly where I wanted to be, but I'm grateful for what came in, and I'm thankful to all of those who donated. And I wanted to make sure that I mentioned the fundraiser and the fact that I am grateful. Even though I did not make the goal, I am grateful for what I received. And the main reason that I want to mention that I am grateful, and I do have news that I want to get into, but the main reason that I mention that I'm grateful is because, one, I don't do that nearly enough, and two, it's a recurring theme of one of the podcasts that I've recently started listening to, The School of Greatness. And the host, I forget his name off the top of my head, but the host of the show, when he has guests, and he has guests 2 out of the 3 shows that he does per week, he always asks them 2 questions. Well, he asks them more than 2 questions, but they're a repeating set of questions that he always asks, and one of them is, what are you grateful for? Another one that he always asks, what is your definition of greatness? And then the third question that he always asks, and I don't yet have this in my inbox on my Wonder List, but I will add it. And it's something that I definitely want to spend at least a portion of an Ask Me Anything episode on. Not because, I was actually asked the question, but it's a really good question. And I like the question, and I want to think on it and develop a really good answer to. And the question is, pretend that it's your final day, and you're surrounded by your friends and your family and everybody that you love. Everything that you've created has been destroyed. So every book you've written, every podcast you've made, every television show, every fill-in-the-blank that you've ever made has been destroyed. However, you're handed a piece of paper, and you are told that you can write 3 truths on the piece of paper. What do you write on the piece of paper? And it's something that I love hearing the various answers to this question. And again, it's something that at some point I'll wind up answering in an Ask Me Anything. Of course, I can always ask myself the question, but if somebody listening happens to, want to know the answer to that question, send the email ama@fppradio.com, and I answer those questions every Wednesday. Now, I do have a programming note for this week, actually this week and next, and possibly the following week. Yes, most likely for the next 3 weeks, there will be a change of programming because I have plans on Friday for the next 3 weeks. And actually, I believe the next 4 weeks, I will not be able to do a show on Friday. So this week, the reason no show on Friday, I will be up in the State House in the Legislative Office building of the New Hampshire Legislature, testifying on some legislation. And I don't believe that my schedule will allow me to wind up getting a show out in a timely manner. So no show this Friday. Next Friday, I'll be at the New Hampshire Liberty Forum. And again, schedule will not permit me to get a show out. The following Friday, the final Friday of February the 26th, I will actually be flying down to Biloxi, Mississippi. Well, actually, I'm flying into New Orleans, and then I will be driving. Well, actually, I'm not driving. I've got somebody coming to pick me up, but I will be going to Biloxi, Mississippi for the Alabama-Mississippi Libertarian Party State Convention, where the two parties are doing a joint convention. There's a presidential debate happening there in Biloxi. And speaking of presidential debates, there's actually a debate that is being recorded tonight where I will be debating someone from the Green Party whose name I don't have in front of me at the moment, but I can pull up here fairly quickly. So that is happening, and again, that's being recorded, and it will air at a later date, and I'll give you the info on that. And speaking of info, I will post the link to my keynote address for Keenvention in the show notes today, and I'll jump into the news when we come back.
During the 2013 Porcupine Freedom Festival, Davi Barker presented an idea for a renegade psychological experiment. Since then, he has refined his idea and put his plan and research into writing. He explains, "We aim to show the world beyond a shadow of a doubt that power corrupts absolutely and corrupt authority deserves no obedience." Authoritarian Sociopathy is available from Amazon.com, all major bookstores, and now available as an audiobook.
It is the year 91,001 BCE. Witness humanity's origins in Hyperchronius, a classic role-playing game for Windows PCs, with a story like no other game before. A liberty-oriented experience that is not to be missed. Go to zog.ninja to get your copy of Hyperchronius today. Use the code FPP to get $1 off. Hyperchronius, zog.ninja, code FPP.
You can support FPP Radio by shopping online. Whether you're looking for precious metals, bitcoins, or books, you'll find that and more at shop.fppradio.com. Every purchase you make from one of my affiliates, like Namecheap, Spendabit, and Amazon at shop.fppradio.com helps fund FPP Radio. Or you can shop directly from FPP with Bitcoin in the Bitcoin store. That's shop.fppradio.com.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry. Online at fppradio.com.
So before I jump into the news and tell you how the state of California is sticking it to Cam Newton, and if you don't know who Cam Newton is, I'll explain. But something that I'm fairly certain you are aware of is Bitcoin. And I'm guessing that you prefer keeping your free market money in the free market. And if so, then you need Spendabit in your arsenal. Spendabit is the search engine for things you can buy with Bitcoin. Spendabit aggregates millions of products from thousands of Bitcoin-enabled merchants like Overstock.com and Free Press Publications. So keep your money in the free economy. Spend a bit. Use my affiliate link, spendabit.fppradio.com. And if you're a Bitcoin accepting merchant, ask about their merchant suite to reach even more customers. Spendabit.fppradio.com. That's spendabit.fppradio.com. So looking now, I do have the name of who I will be debating tonight. It is Senator Curry, who's one of the Green Party presidential candidates. I believe it's Green Party. Let me double check that as well, just to make sure that I'm giving completely accurate information. But while I pull that information up, let me jump into, or actually, you know what, I've got that right in front of me now, and yes, it is Green Party. I will be debating a Green Party candidate tonight on publicsquare.net. It's Public Square Television, and I'm actually going to be Skyping in. Mr. Curry will be in studio down in, I believe it's Alexandria, Virginia, somewhere down in the D.C. area. I'll be connecting via Skype. It will be recorded and broadcast at a later time. And, of course, whenever they wind up putting that online, I will post a link in the show notes and make sure that I mention, hey, by the way, remember that thing that I recorded back in mid-February? Yeah, it's online now. So let me jump into the news and tell you about how the state of California is screwing over Cam Newton. Cam Newton, you may or may not know, is the quarterback of the Carolina Panthers. That's a football team. And you might be thinking to yourself, Carolina, how does that fit into California? Because they're on the opposite side of the country. And yes, exactly, they are on the opposite side of the country. However, California has some weird, screwy tax laws. And Cam Newton, again, quarterback of the Carolina Panthers, one of the two football teams that was in the football game that aired on TV last night that you may or may not have watched, known as the Super Bowl, Super Bowl 50. It's the championship game for the National Football League. Well, the story here comes from Forbes.com, and they begin by saying, remember when Peyton Manning had to pay New Jersey nearly $47,000 in taxes 2 years ago on his Super Bowl earnings of $46,000? Yeah, that's right. Peyton Manning, a couple years ago, paid $1,000 more in taxes than what he earned in the football game. Well, now they say Peyton Manning has nothing on the state taxes, facing Carolina Panthers quarterback Cam Newton for Super Bowl 50 in Santa Clara, California. Newton is looking at a tax bill more than twice as much, which will swallow up his entire Super Bowl paycheck, win or lose, thanks to California's top-in-the-nation tax rate of 13.3%. And this article was written before the game happened. And, well, the Carolina Panthers lost. And so Cam Newton now has to pay more money to the state of California than what he earned. And it's a lot more. And I'll tell you about it, but let me continue with the article from Forbes. They say before we get into the numbers, let's do a quick review of the jock tax rules applied to professional athletes. Similar tax rules apply to anyone doing business across state lines, but they are rarely actually enforced. States tax a player based on their calendar year income. They apply a duty day calculation, which takes the ratio of days, or rather the ratio of duty days within the states over total duty days for the year. That ratio is then multiplied by the player's salary to arrive at a state's allotable income. In 2014, Peyton Manning would have paid New Jersey a 51% tax rate on his $92,000 earned had the Denver Broncos won the Super Bowl. Unfortunately for them, Manning and Manning's legacy, they were blown out by a Seattle Seahawks team that knew the right plays to call all night long, so Manning paid a whopping 102% tax to New Jersey on his $46,000 consolation prize. So again, states such as California and New Jersey will tax people on the total amount that they earn for the year based on, a ratio of, well, you worked this many days in this state divided by the total amount that you earn, so therefore your tax is based on this, and there you go. So it's not based on how much did you earn in the state, which would make sense. It's how much did you earn overall, how many of the days that you worked were you in this state. And it's really convoluted. Skip ahead to this year, and now Manning is back in the Super Bowl against the highly talented and highly compensated Cam Newton, who signed a 5-year, $103.8 million contract extension in June. Newton has already earned $58,800 so far this year for Week 17 of the 2015 football season and $71,000 in playoff bonuses. Newton is due a $10 million signing bonus and $13 million in base salary for the 2016 season, which he will receive the full amount during the regular season. Luckily, Week 17 next season will occur on New Year's Day 2017, thus shielding about $765,000 from the grasp of the taxman in California. And then they right here, if the Panthers win, and I will say if they would have won Super Bowl 50, Newton would have earned $102,000 in playoff bonuses, but they wound up losing, so he netted only $51,000 in a playoff bonus. The Panthers will have about 206 total duty days during 2016, including playoffs, preseason, and regular season, and organized team activities, which Newton must attend or lose $500,000. 7 of those duty days will be in California for the Super Bowl, and another 4 will be in the Golden State for road games against Los Angeles and Oakland next season. Had Cam Newton won yesterday, he would have had to pay California a total of $159,560 in taxes. He wound up losing, and the California taxman is taking only $159,200. So his loss that wound up costing him $51,000 in potential earnings only saved him $360 from the taxman. And I'll run this number by you one more time in just a second here on Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. I am your host, Darryl W. Perry.
Hey, this is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends radio show. I've been working with computer programmer Derek Slopey to create Feinphone. I'm using Feinphone right now to talk with and record one of my co-hosts in real time. Take it, Davi.
Hey, this is Davi Barker, and I'm 1,000 miles away from Michael, but we sound like we're in the same room.
We sure do, Davi. So, Davi, please tell the nice people more about Feinphone.
Feinphone is free, open-source software that opens up a global world of possibilities for collaborative, high-quality remote voice media production, and I'm digging it.
People can try the Windows beta version of Feinphone right now at Feinphone.com. But we're also raising money to vastly improve Feinphone and vastly improve independent talk media worldwide.
So go to Feinphone.com to help out. Who will build the audio roads? We will, with your help.
That's Feinphone.com. Feinphone.com. Foxtrot, Echo, November, phone.com.
Feinphone. I never knew remote audio could be this good.
When her plush and comfy life suddenly and unexpectedly fell apart, Brooke and her dog Cloud set out to defy the odds. If this is a man's world, as they say, living on the streets is no place for a young woman. One day she awoke in the redwood forest and realized she had become a hobo, and would ultimately come to know exactly what it means to survive. How to Be a Hobo by Brooke Willett is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry.
So let me jump back in and rerun these numbers by you real quick. So there was a football game last night. Lots of people watched it. I was able to watch part of it, and then I had a conference call that I had to jump on to. And unfortunately, the team that I was hoping to win and team that I had put some money on did not win the game. So I wound up, losing a couple dollars. Cam Newton, the starting quarterback for the team that did not win the game, he wound up losing a lot of dollars. I'm going to run these numbers by you one more time. For his losing effort in the game last night, he earned an amount of money of $51,000. That's how much he earned for playing in the game and not winning. But because of the tax rules in California, the tax man says you now have to pay us $159,200. So if you're playing at home and you have a calculator, yes, that is $108,200 more than what he earned. So yeah, he is paying an enormous tax bill to the state of California, all for the right to wind up losing a football game. And again, had he won last night, he would have earned $102,000 in playoff bonuses and would have had to pay $159,560 to the state of California. To determine, and this article from Forbes, let me jump back in. They say, to determine what Newton will pay California on his Super Bowl winnings alone, we will ignore the 4 2016 season duty days and pretend they are being played elsewhere. In looking at the 7 days Newton will spend in California this week for Super Bowl 50, he will pay the state $101,600 on $102,000 of income should they win, or $101,360 on $51,000 should they lose. So again, by losing the game, he only saved $640 in taxes just for the Super Bowl. The results, Cam Newton is paying a tax rate of 198.8% on his Super Bowl earnings. That's just to the state of California. He also has to pay the Internal Revenue Service 40.5% of that money. So I just find this to be completely absurd, and it's one more reason, as if there aren't enough reasons to hate taxes, right? But this is just one more reason, and I realize some people are going to say, well, he's rich, he can afford it. Okay, but still, that doesn't make it right. Just because somebody can afford to wind up, having something stolen from them does not make stealing okay. Just because somebody can afford to wind up, being prevented from going to work or having their mode of transportation taken, oh, well, you don't really need a car because you work from home. It still doesn't make taking their stuff moral. It does not make taking their stuff right. And I'll just leave it at that, and I will jump into something else. And you know what? Let me actually jump into, here's a fun story out of Cleveland. That would be Cleveland, Ohio, not any of the other Clevelands. And yes, there are a lot of Clevelands around the country. And actually, the story is not from Cleveland. Well, the story is from a Cleveland media outlet, but it's actually a sign in a courthouse in Columbia County, Pennsylvania. And this is just a fun little story, and then I'll jump into something just a little more serious in the closing moments. The sign reads, "Pajamas are not appropriate attire for district court." The story from WOIO, because it's Ohio, it's round on the end and high in the middle. The story from WOIO Channel 19 says a judge in Pennsylvania is taking a stand when it comes to the dress code in his courtroom. Judge Craig Long recently put up a sign in the lobby of his courtroom. It says, "Pajamas are not appropriate attire for district court." Long said he's seeing more and more people coming into his courtroom wearing pajama bottoms. He hopes the sign will help people know the rules. Long said, "We have a growing problem of people not dressing appropriately for court, and I just put it out there as a reminder of the code of conduct that should be followed when appearing in court. It's not a law, it's not a rule or something that we could enforce. It's just basically a reminder." So here you have, and I'm going to sort of make fun of judges for a moment. Here you have a man that basically wears a dress, telling people you can't wear pajama bottoms when you come in front of me. And he tells the media, yeah, it's not a law or a rule, and I can't really actually do anything. I just don't like seeing people in pajamas. And, that's fine. You don't have to look at the people, really. Like, you could always ignore the defendant if you wanted to. But I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this. Because, on the one hand, I can understand, not wanting to see people dressed a certain way, but at the same time, it's public property, and you're telling people you have to show up here. And I know that there are some courts that I've heard of where they will not let you into the courthouse if you are not wearing slacks and a button-up shirt. There are some courthouses where they actually do enforce a dress code. This guy's just reminding people. So on the one hand, it's kind of a nice reminder of, hey, you should probably, not look like you're going to Walmart at 3 o'clock in the morning. But at the same time, you can't really enforce this. He can't throw people in jail for it. And if he were throwing people in jail for it, then I would probably be a lot more upset about this. I just think it's kind of silly. I honestly think that this is absolutely ridiculous. You've got a guy that wears a dress telling people don't wear pajamas. Well, what's next? Is he going to tell people you can't wear leggings? You cannot wear yoga pants? You must wear a 3-piece suit if you're a man, and you must wear a corset and one of the antebellum dresses that has the big poofy bottom part of the dress if you're a woman. Like, how far is he going to go with these rules? Or is he just, again, saying, I don't think pajamas are appropriate. And again, let me read the quote that he told the media. He said, quote, "We have a growing problem of people not dressing appropriately for court," although he doesn't define what appropriately for court means. I wonder if he would be okay if other people started wearing the little black dress when they come to court. I actually have one of those. I should probably wear that to court sometime just to see what they say, if they say anything at all. Well, would they say that I'm impersonating an officer of the court? Well, would they throw me in jail? Would they threaten to throw me in jail if I walked into court wearing the judge's robe? But again, he says, we have a growing problem of people not dressing appropriately, and I just put it out there as a reminder of the code of conduct that should be followed. It's not a law, it's not a rule or something that we can enforce. It's just basically a reminder. So what do you think? Send your thoughts and your questions, ama@fppradio.com. I'll answer all of your questions on Wednesday.